Hello, welcome to this presentation entitled Preschool Homeschooling, Why and How. I'm Nicolene Steyn. I'm the owner of the Educational Box Company and the co-founder thereof, and I'm happy to talk to you today about something that a lot of parents have a lot of questions about, especially now in the COVID times that toddlers couldn't go to school and had to homeschool, and the whole dynamic around homeschooling a toddler. So the first question you might ask is, why do I have to homeschool my toddler? And the easy answer is, you don't. Having a toddler at home is really challenging, and we can all admit that. But your child does not have to have school-going abilities between these ages. I work with children, with babies from 5 months through toddler age all the way up to 6 years. And I can tell you one thing that studies and scientists and everyone knows, and that is completely true, is children need to learn through play. So an incredibly structured system is not necessary for these little ones. They don't need a semi-formal environment. They don't need stimulation. They don't need entertainment. What they do need is inclusion. They need to be included in daily life. They need to feel that they're a part of something. If they have gone to school before, what they have found there is being part of a class, being part of the dolphin class or Miss Smith's class. That is their feeling of being included. Now that they're home with you, what do they want to be included in now? Everything you do. They want to be included in the family. So the next question we're looking at is, what does it mean to homeschool my toddler? So what it means to homeschool a toddler is simply to facilitate learning through play. So how do I, as homeschooling parent or caregiver, facilitate learning through play? The first step is to create a stress-free environment for your toddler. The reason why this is so incredibly important is because a child cannot learn if they are in fight or flight or freeze mode. When they need to fend for their life, new information that will help them learn new skills can't come into their brains because the blood is being redistributed in this stressful life or death situation from the brain to the muscles in order to help them to fight or flee in the fight or flight response. So creating a stress-free environment does not mean your child can never be disciplined. It doesn't mean nothing will ever go wrong. It doesn't mean that you won't lose your cool or that you can't lose your cool because then you'll be damaging your child. Not at all. What it means is that you are simply in control of the situation and that for the most, your child can be relaxed and enjoy life. So how can you create a stress-free environment for your child? The first thing is by being prepared. Now, all of us know, all of us that have toddlers or have ever experienced a toddler knows that you cannot be fully prepared for everything a toddler throws at you. It just is not possible. So let's be realistic. How do I prepare for toddler homeschooling? The first thing is that you need to remember, as I've said earlier, that your toddler does not need to be entertained. Your toddler needs to be engaged and to feel part of something, but not entertained. Your toddler needs to learn how to keep themselves busy. And that is, you all will know that that is the one thing that homeschoolers do very well. They can entertain themselves. The next step is to prepare a routine. No, you don't have to prepare a list that says breakfast is at 8, at 8:15 we brush teeth, 8:30 we need to go outside. Please don't do that. If you're a toddler parent, that is setting yourself up for disaster because no toddler will ever fall in such a strict routine. What I do suggest is that you look at your family's rhythm. During lockdown and this time that we've just been through, we've spent a lot of time together and we've spent a lot of time at home. What was your routine like in general days? Did you get up early? Did you sleep in? Did your toddler like to take their nap at 10 o'clock in the morning? Did they like to push through and only go, take a nap at 2 o'clock? What was your general routine like in those times? According to that, set up a routine that is focused on what follows next rather than a time that you need to keep to a schedule. So what follows breakfast? Brushing teeth. So whether breakfast is at 6 a.m., which is very possible with toddlers, or if breakfast is at 9 a.m. for the lucky few who have toddlers who sleep in, what follows after breakfast is brushing teeth. What follows after brushing teeth is doing an activity. So rather have a routine that has freedom for you to introduce new activities and to suddenly have to go to the shop or something like that, but that your toddler feels secure and safe with what follows on each other. So now that your routine is going and you've got it down and your toddler knows what to expect, now you can start introducing the method of homeschooling that you want to follow, whether it be a Charlotte Mason approach, the Montessori approach, the eclectic approach, any one of those, as long as it fits your family. But remember to always be flexible. What you think might work in the beginning might not work later. So try and test and see what works for your family. The third thing that you can do to prepare is to go and get the supplies you need. It's really frustrating if you want to do an activity, if you've pinned something on Pinterest, or you've heard of this amazing thing, or the approach that you use says you must do this activity today, and you don't have the supplies. So take the time, go through what you want to go through and plan a month ahead. And once again, planning not on the third Monday, we are going to do this at that time, because we always need to be flexible with toddlers, but just make sure that you've got a broad idea of what you want to do, and make sure you have Play-Doh in the cupboard. Make sure you have painting supplies. Make sure you have your drawing supplies. Make sure you have things that they can use for gross motor activities. So all of these need to be close at hand. You need to be able to open your homeschool cupboard, jou tuiskoolkas, soos ons dit in my huis noem. Open your cupboard and take out what you need at that moment. You also need a few things that are go-tos that you know your toddler loves. For those times that you've not been prepared, where your day's just gone crazy, but your toddler just wants something to do, have something ready for them that's a bit nicer than usual. Not just Play-Doh, but maybe Play-Doh with a Play-Doh mat that's been laminated. Go look on Pinterest. There are thousands of things there, but make sure that you have a go-to in there for a rainy day. The fourth way of being prepared is by having play invitations. Some of you might have heard of this before. The concept behind a play invitation is that you prepare whatever is necessary for your child, or what you think they would like to do that day, or according to your method or your approach, and put it somewhere where you can keep an eye, because as toddler parents we know an accident happens so quickly. So keep an eye on it, but don't entertain your child. Don't take them to the Mundo messy play area and say to them, we are going to do this now. Set up the activity for them somewhere where you've got the space and you're prepared with your messy cloth that you spread out to catch the spill over that inevitably follows with toddlers, and just be in the area, and your toddler will soon see it and start exploring and wondering, what is that? Only after they've engaged themselves for quite a while, then you can join them. Just before they are bored, but just after they have started their own game. If you want to, you can join them then and help them learn certain things. So play invitations is your best friend. The next way of being prepared is by scheduling downtime. Toddler mom, toddler dad, toddler gran, you need downtime. In our house, we have quiet hour. I've learned this from my sister and various other homeschoolers, and it works a charm. And if you start doing it when you've got a toddler, by the time you have teenagers in the home, quiet hour will be well established and they will want it as well. So what you do is you choose a time during the day. When your toddler is still little, it will probably be the time that they take their nap, and schedule for yourself downtime as well. So during that hour, what are you going to do to make sure that you get downtime as well? You can use that time to do other work. You can use that time any way you want, but it has to be something that doesn't have to do with your children, because you need to take care of yourself as well. Later on, if they don't want to nap anymore, they're going to be kicking and screaming, because we all know what a toddler is like when they drop their naps. But what you're going to do is you're going to say, you're not going to sleep. You don't have to sleep if you don't want, but we are just taking a rest, or we're having quiet hour. And you have to be in your room quietly. Take a puzzle and build, leaf through a book, listen to an audio book, anything that you want, but you need to be quiet in your room for an hour. Believe me, this is the best way of looking after yourself, because in the end, you can only create a stress-free environment if you are stress-free. We can't achieve complete stress-freeness in this day and age in 2020 and viruses and all kinds of things, but you can create most of that for your child. The last thing that you need to do to be prepared is to have grace for yourself. If there are days that you did not manage to follow the semi-routine, it's fine. If you haven't gotten to fine motor activities this week yet, it's fine. Do it next week. Just remember that creating a stress-free environment is much more important than doing every single activity that you've planned. You're not a failure if you haven't gotten around to every single activity that you've planned. It simply means that this was a difficult week. And so be it. Next week will be better. So the last question is, how do I know that my child is developing correctly and reaching their milestones when they are not in school and they can't be assessed by a teacher? The first thing to know about babies and toddler development is that they develop from the inside out. That means that they first need to work on their big muscles, their core muscles, their shoulder muscles, their leg muscles, before they can work on the smaller muscles, which is the arms and the lower legs. And in the end, they develop the fine muscles of the fingers. So it's very important for your child to develop the muscles from big to small to fine. And this is also something that Dr. Melody de Jager from Baby Gym and Mind Moves really focuses on. If your child does not have a strong gross motor muscle foundation, then the small and fine muscles always have problems, and that will actually later on cause your child to have learning problems. When your child later on has to sit and write and do their copy work, if they don't have large, strong core muscles, they won't be able to keep their body up. What happens is the brain focuses its attention on the large muscles to keep the body up, and the big muscles to move the actual hand, and the fine muscles instead of using the brain to take in the information that they need to do. That is why a toddler needs to work on their muscles all of the time. So during the week, make sure that your child has at least one gross motor exercising activity per day. It could be as simple as jumping on a trampoline. It could be something like making an obstacle course in your garden that they have to go over. For the babies, an obstacle course in the passageway where they have to crawl over pillows and cushions and things is always a lot of fun. But those gross motor activities they need to do every day. It could also include going for a walk with them in the park. It could be joining them for a bike ride. But every single day needs a gross motor activity. Then make sure that they also have a fine motor activity every day. These activities do not have to be worked out and prepared necessarily. It could also be simply giving them some peas for lunch and just putting it on a tray and having them pick it up to eat, or raisins or something small. That is an amazing fine motor activity. Something like giving them something to eat that they have to use a spoon, or they have to use a fork in order to stick it, and how they hold that fork, pressing down on that. That is a fine motor activity. It does not have to be incredibly prepared beforehand and according to a curriculum. Everyday things are fine motor activities for your toddler. The fourth thing that you need to do every week is to have a sensory experience with your toddler. Sensory experiences doesn't always have to be messy though. Remember that. It could be something like lying on top of some bubble wrap with a bare tummy. What an amazing sensory experience that is for your child, and some fine motor in popping the bubbles. Something like walking barefoot in the garden and on some stones. It could be something like simply smelling different flowers in the garden. While you're doing that, you can name the flowers, you can talk about the bugs you see. Nature studies is amazing for sensory development for your toddler. Just make sure that they have something different to smell, to taste, to see, to hear every single day. And don't shy away from the activities that they don't like, die grillerige goeters. If they don't like getting their hands dirty, simply help them by giving them a tool to maybe scoop up the messy mixture that you've made. Next time, maybe help them by just using one finger to do finger painting with. Next time, use 2 fingers. That way, you keep exposing them and they'll really adapt quite quickly. The last thing that you have to make sure that your toddler is developing is their speech. Speech and rhythm and music is one of the things that are most important for your toddler. This would unfortunately mean that you will have to sing to your toddler, and despite your terrible voice maybe, it would mean that you would need to memorize some verses yourself so that you can teach it to your toddler, but it's all worth it. Remember, speech development and music and rhythm is not just for their own personal experience, but it's also for their social development. Being part of a social group is one of our basic needs as humans. And if someone can't communicate well, that means that they will not be socially accepted. And what do our toddlers want? They want to be included. So make sure that your child's speech is very well developed. Remember, the best way to develop their speech is to simply chat. Sit down and talk to them. Share general experiences with them. Talk to them like they're adults, not like they're babies. Don't use baby talk anymore. They're big now. So chat to them, have them chat back to you, have them answer in full sentences, try to stay away from yes or no questions. And just by having a random conversation with your toddler, you are developing not only their speech abilities, but also their vocabulary. Also read aloud to them. This will make a huge difference in your child's speech abilities. The last thing that you need to do to make sure that your toddler develops in the right way is to trust your gut. You know. You are in tune with your child and you know when there's something wrong. Trust your gut. If you think it's necessary for your child to go to a speech therapist or a physiotherapist, do it. Go for that. Because you as mom, in your heart, you know what your child needs. So don't second guess yourself. Go and do what you need to do. Trust yourself. So to sum up, a toddler needs to be included and feel part of the family in daily life. Homeschooling a toddler means to facilitate learning through play. Create a stress-free environment by being prepared. Make sure your toddler reaches their milestones by including gross motor, fine motor, sensory, and speech activities in their daily life. And lastly, go easy on yourself, be adaptable, and trust your gut. Thank you very much for being part of this presentation, and I really hope that you enjoy this time with your toddler.